When Thomas asked me to talk about compassion and kind of explain what it looks like in my role, I really did have to kind of think about what does that look like? What does that mean to me? And as a school counselor and a counselor that's worked with some of the district's most significant behavior students, it really came down to having the ability to detach from a lot of the situations that we deal with. I've been hit and kicked and bit, and you name it, the desk's thrown at me, but I still love that child, and I still have the ability to wish them a good night and hope that they come back the next morning and had a good night. I don't know what they deal with when they go home. I don't know what their home life is like. I don't know, did they eat? Did they get their medications? I try to find out. I ask their parents how their night went, but I don't always know. I don't know if social services showed up. I don't know if the police showed up. I don't know what that was all like. But I can control the way that I react. I can control what I say and do to them. I can control how I respond to them even when they're cussing at me. I can keep my emotions in check. I can keep myself rationally detached from their living situation. And I think that that is the best way that I have found to provide compassion for those kids, to let them know that no matter what they do and say to me, that I will still care about them and I will still be in their corner. I will still fight for them and I will still provide the best education that I know how. Just because they're mean to me and they try to take it out on me doesn't mean that I have to punish them for that. They deal with some really horrific situations and home lives that I can't control, but I can provide them a stable environment at school. I can provide them love and support when nobody else wants to. Almost all the kids in my program have been removed from their regular classrooms and brought into a special classroom because they have beat up their teachers way too much. And they have a reputation for being aggressive. A lot of them have been kicked out and suspended and seen as kids that nobody wants to work with. And it takes me a while to kind of break down that false narrative that they've been given. And compassion has been a great way that I can do that by letting them know no matter what, that I'm still going to be here and I'm still going to help them. Um, I just have to be able to detach from that and show them that no matter what they do, I'm still going to provide what they need. Um, it's just something that we need to be better at as educators. We need to be able to rationally detach, not take it personally, which is a hard skill to maintain. And it's taken me almost a decade now to get to the point where almost nothing bothers me because I'm focused on the needs of the child. I'm not focused on how I feel. I'm not focused on how it affects me. I'm focused on what does that kid need in this moment and what can I do right now to be in a better relationship with them? Do I have to make sure that I am not showing the emotion of impatience, that I'm not showing the emotions that I'm super annoyed with them, but am I showing them that I care and that I'm going to be here, and no matter what, how I feel about them isn't going to change, and that I'm going to be stable for them. So I think that that is a big reason why we've had a lot of success in our program is because we have shown compassion when nobody else really has. We've showed them that we care and that we will be there for them.
Ben McVicker here, and I get to teach you a little video about compassion for parents and educators because compassion is a huge thing that you get to teach more and more about as students get older, but it does start right there at birth. Whenever your child cries, I've got a 4-month-old at home, waking up in the middle of the night still, and I'm trying to meet those needs, even when it's in the middle of the night. Middle of the night, pretty easy. It's food. I can help a little bit with that. Get some formula, get some milk from the fridge, and we're good to go. It could be a diaper during the day. It could be just feeling tired. And I'm meeting that need. And as my son grows up, I'm going to be modeling how to see somebody in distress. And I'm going to do something about it because that's what compassion is. That's what we teach our kids. It's the active acting out of, or the desire to act on seeing somebody else in distress. Whenever you're showing empathy or sympathy for a situation and you're wanting to act on it, that's compassion in you and in your kids. And the way that we most show and teach our kids that is actually modeling it in our own lives. So it has to be real to us. Like, just that's the first thing. We have to recognize it in us so that our kids then want to follow what we put in front of them. And that's for teachers. We are role models. Educators, we are there. We get those kids in the 20 to 30 kids in a classroom, and we get to model compassion when we see a student having a bad day. Whenever we see another educator in the hallway that drops something, do we just laugh at them, make fun of them, or do we pick it up? And parents in the home, starts from birth, showing your child that you're going to pay attention to them, that you're going to have compassion towards them when they're in distress. And guys, we all know there's sometimes the kids in distress for dropping their pencil. It's a minor distress, but it's something that you can still show compassion in. Hey, I will help you pick that up. Or it could be my best friend just moved away and I am all alone. Now, the only friend that I had, a much higher level of distress. And we model how to come alongside them and to show them how to care well for people. And it's through that example, because at birth to 1 year old, you're getting that trust versus mistrust, or there you're supporting them whenever there's a problem. From that 1 to 2, 1, 2.5, 3 range, they're trying to help. And you tell them, what are the kind ways to help? Hey, you wanted to play with your little brother, and throwing the baseball at them was not helpful. That was not kind. Hey, you brought me the cup, even though you spilled everywhere. You were trying to be kind. You get to model that for them. Parents, especially at home, you get to build in those basic building blocks. And if you haven't, it's like my basketball coach said, that no matter what, you're always going to build on the basics. So whether you're dealing with a 23-year-old or a 2-year-old, you show them that you're going to show them compassion. Then you get to teach them what is the right way of showing that, so that you can actually be as kind and helpful as you think you're being. And then into that 3 to 4 range, kids start to realize, wait, you're different than me. We do things differently, and we're always growing in that. And the kids, as we let them learn and see how others feel and how that other person is choosing to express it, we get to use those as teachable moments. And you teach them through that modeling and through seeing a moment. For example, students sitting down in a circle, or you go to do something family on the couch, and your child scoots over when they see somebody come. It scoots over in the circle. You say, hey, you scooted over so that your brother could have room, or your friend could have room to sit. You saw this child needed a place to sit, distress, and you met that need. That is compassion. And there's other ways that you can teach this, other than every teachable moment, that any chance that you see a child do something good, and like naming it and then identifying it and telling them how it was helpful. You can make a kindness tree. Seen teachers do that, where they have a tree up on a wall and they have leaves or apples or fruit or something, and the kids write what is something kind somebody did for them. The person who did the kind thing gets recognized, and other kids see, oh, that's something I can do as well. And you can do a kindness jar at home whenever you say, hey, somebody needs to do something kind. They go in there, they grab it out. Okay, I'm going to do one of my siblings' chores. Act of kindness. I used to have at the school that I worked at a poster that was up on the wall and had those little pull-off things on the bottom that had a random act of kindness. So kids would go up there and grab it, pull it off, give somebody a compliment. All right, they can do that. It gives a structure. And kind of going off that, what I had to do to make my little poster was brainstorming ways to show compassion. Do that with your families. Do that with your class as a morning activity. Just say, hey, what are ways that we can show compassion, where we can see a need and then meet that need? Brainstorm, because then you're making a bunch of neuron connections that take them from seeing a need to that active step. Do that, make it happen. And you can do role playing, take them aside, say, hey, let's imagine this situation happens with that friend again. They bump you in the hallway and you don't like it. How do you express that expression of your needs? Show them that you're in distress, so they might show compassion on you. Or maybe, hey, you noticed that they were having a bad day, so your act of compassion was to forgive them. Another way is kind of this kindness meditation. There have been studies that show where you think about somebody, you meet them, brain scan, get a reaction, but then you positively meditate, or in a religious community, and I've got a bell going in the background here, but I'm going to keep going. So if you pray for them, like in a religious community, you're thinking those positive thoughts that you want good for them, or you're non-religious and you just think about the positive ways that you want that person to succeed, your brain will react differently than before. It's crazy cool on MRI to see that happen. By thinking positive thoughts about somebody, you'll want to help them and be more receptive to whatever is going on with them. So you can do that to increase that positivity and connection to others in your life. Like I said, the role playing, the naming what you see going on to be positive. You can write letters to soldiers or to cancer patients. You can brainstorm with your class or your family, like ways that you see bad things happening in the world, a hurricane, earthquake, a natural disaster of any type, and how could you care well for them? And I've seen whole schools come together in amazing ways, and just that thinking of other people is so powerful. So there's some tools, there's some options that you can do to teach. And remember, if your child in your classroom or your home is struggling with it, go back to the basics. Show them that you're going to meet their needs. Learn to be a student of them, and then name what they're doing and kind of guide them in the right way to do it that actually achieves what they're trying to do, acknowledge what they're trying, and then build into that recognition of others, learning about others, and then more to that abstractness. The best of luck and enjoy.
Hello, my name is Amber Brazier, and I am the counselor at Robertson Community School in Springfield Public Schools. We are a K-5 building, and I want to talk to you about the skill of empathy. This skill is something that is very interesting because it's one that comes naturally to a lot of people, but it's also one that can be taught and practiced and improved over time. We teach this skill all the way down to kindergarten through 5th grade. And we define it as to care about how someone else is feeling or to put yourself in someone else's shoes. So we may introduce this skill by a video or even up through 5th grade, maybe doing a role play. In our younger grades, we start by identifying feelings, how to name feelings, and looking at facial expressions, body language, and teaching students how to read each other so they can see and identify emotions. And then once they're able to do that well, they can find that whenever they see another student struggling, they can help one another because they can see that they identify with that student. They know that I know how that feels. I know that when I see my friend is sad, and I know how it feels to feel sad. So I want to put my feeling into action and help them feel better or to relieve their pain, which leads later into compassion as well. For students, it eventually leads them to help think beyond and outside of themselves, and it puts their caring into action. With our staff, we can model that behavior. Teachers can model that behavior with one another to remember that our lives outside of school can often be heavy, especially in the world that we live in today. And then we can also practice that behavior with our students to know that their lives often are very complicated and they bring that with them to school. And we can put our empathy into practice. So when we keep in mind that what they're dealing with outside of school can often be a struggle, we can try to put ourselves in their shoes and then also help them try to push beyond those struggles and try to succeed and push beyond that. When we model that and understand where our students are coming from, it makes for a more open and safe school climate. So it creates a safe space for our students and for our staff.
Emily Franco, and I am a school counselor here in Springfield, Missouri with Springfield Public Schools, and I'm going to talk to you about some ways to support your kiddos in learning the skill of empathy. And so I think the first important strategy that we help our kiddos with is helping them to learn to recognize their emotions. So how am I feeling? What am I feeling? What is my body showing others based off of that feeling? So learning, what does anger look like? How is that portrayed to people? What does sadness look like? How is that portrayed? What is excited or nervous, scared? What do those emotions look like? And so once we help our kiddos to learn to be able to identify how they're feeling, I think the next strategy is recognizing, hey, what is other people's body showing them or showing us? So what is their body representing to us? Are they clenching their fists? Is there tears coming down? Do they have a frown? What on their body what is that message communicating to us? So helping kids to recognize how they're feeling first, I think, is step one. Step two is recognizing, what are we noticing on our friends' bodies? And then I think the third step is helping our students to learn, how do I communicate to somebody what I'm noticing? So saying to somebody, for example, you're clenching your fists, you're stomping your feet, you seem angry. What is there that I can do to support you? And so just helping our kiddos to recognize, to be able to have the language to communicate to people about what they're noticing on their body. And so after, I think a great way to kind of start to learn those skills is when we're reading stories to our students or to our kids, and, stopping and saying, hey, what do you think this character on this page is feeling? What on their body tells you that? If you were in a room with this character and you're noticing those things, what might you say? So giving them those role-playing opportunities to begin to practice identifying the emotion and to begin to practice communicating, what they might say in that situation. I think another great opportunity is when you're watching a movie, stop the movie and say, hey, that character, that event just happened in that character's life. How might they be feeling? What on their body tells you that? Again, what would you say to that character in that situation? So just kind of bringing out those natural role-playing opportunities. I think another important skill in teaching empathy is helping kids to embrace diversity. So helping them to understand that we have more in common than we recognize. So, what do we have in common with, the other students in our class or the other kiddos on our soccer team? What is something that we have in common? We're not all the same, but what is something we have in common? And how can we grow upon that? How can we show empathy to people? So I think the first step is in supporting our kiddos to learn empathy is helping them to describe and label their own emotions, but then begin to identify what is our friends displaying in their body. I think the next thing is kind of just role playing with them of, while you're reading a story or watching a movie, what are the characters showing us about themselves as we go throughout the story or the movie? And then I think the next thing is just kind of helping our kiddos to embrace diversity and see the value and benefit of that, and just recognizing that we don't have to be all the same to support somebody, that we don't have to all go through the same life scenario in order to know how to be kind and how to support somebody through a situation. And so I hope these tips help you in talking to your kiddo and working with your kiddo to learn the important skill of diversity. I wish you all well.